Well, earlier this week, we saw another meltdown at airports nationwide. The FAA says a corrupt file caused a system-wide outage. Flights were ordered to stay grounded for a few hours. That caused some major delays. Joining me now is Dr. Olaf Groth, global strategist and faculty at UC Berkeley's Haas School of Business. So, Olaf, our doctor, should I say, what does this say about our air travel systems right now?
Hello, Ryan, and a happy stormy new year to you.
Yeah.
Clearly, air travel has also been hit by stormy fate here. Look, essentially what we're seeing is that the FAA has been hit by the same troubles that Southwest was hit when the snowstorms happened. That is outdated technology that is not able to keep up with the complexity of our modern travel, transport, and supply chain systems. One weak component, as in the case of the FAA, this was just one outdated database file, or corrupted database file, I should say, that was manipulated by one or two contractors, right? A simple thing, mistakes do happen, that essentially ground the entire air travel system to a halt and had a cascading effect there for something like 9,000 flights being delayed and 1,300 being canceled throughout the rest of the day. So clearly, major repercussions, and we need to think about how our systems, air travel, rail, essentially everything that has to do with logistics of life, can be made more robust and resilient through updated, advanced, smarter technologies, right? Now, some people say the FAA is chronically underfunded. Yes, money is always part of that, but I think another part here is to understand which types of technologies we need to mandate to be updated ever so often in order to keep up with the complexity of the increasing amount of crisis that we're really looking at here.
Okay, let's talk about Tesla numbers. You seem to forget, with all the talk about Twitter, that Elon Musk still owns Tesla. So why does Elon actually really need to focus on this company?
Well, look, he's clearly been very busy with Twitter. I think he's recognizing that that's not a good idea for Tesla. He's pulled various key talent, senior talent over from Tesla into Twitter at a time when really Tesla needs all of his focus. And I think that is going to change going forward, right? So there was a series of bad news happening when it comes to Tesla. One, he missed the sales target, right? He came in at 40%, not 50% sales increase. Or vehicles sold, I should say. That seems like a small margin, but it's a meaningful one. Most of it can be blamed on how vehicles are being delivered, on Chinese factories being shuttered, and so on and so forth, because operationally, he's actually done quite well. Tesla has had a good operating margin last year, but the stock price has tumbled very significantly. Shareholders are upset, understandably. Musk doesn't want to buy back stock because he needs money to put into Twitter. So all of that needs to change now. And I would suggest that there is 4, 5, 6 different priorities here for Musk. Number one, he has to focus on the production capabilities out of China and out of Germany. Number two, he has to focus on the very complex picture of new launches happening with the Cybertruck, with the new 18-wheeler that he is launching, as well as ostensibly an even cheaper car that's coming to market. That's a lot of complexity for a small entrepreneurial organization. He is having to focus on smaller vehicles and less expensive vehicles, because with rising interest rates and inflation, these cars are getting more expensive. And so he needs to have an answer to that. Then he's going to have to pass various highway transportation safety tests. He's going to have to focus on the autonomous driving capability, which is kind of set to be lagging behind. So he's got a very full plate. He's brilliant in many ways, but, there's only so much brilliance that can help with a very complex picture like this if you are not focused.
Yeah, that's going to be a delicate balancing act for Elon Musk there. Well, China is also reopening its borders after they were hit hard by the pandemic. So what exactly does that mean for us?
Well, I think in the short run, we're looking at a rather wobbly China, as it were, and I'm talking about the next 3 to 6 months, right? China had growth of about 3% last year. That is significantly lower than the predicted or desired 5%. Now, remember, with 1.3, 1.4 billion citizens, that's in absolute terms, that is quite the lag in growth. And clearly, with the lockdowns added on top, Xi Jinping has to deal now with a lot of discontent. On the flip side of that, Chinese families have been able to save a lot of their income because they were unable to spend it. They're going to release step by step some of that spending, not in one fell swoop, but bit by bit. And businesses are reopening. Some businesses won't make it. We'll have to see which ones and how large they are and what impact that has on employment. But in the short run, that points toward a rather wobbly picture. Now, in the long term, we're talking sort of the end of this year and forward. I think China will resume growth, will become again a key pillar of the global economy, a key growth engine. And then the key questions here are twofold. A, how are the companies that have created all these contingent supply chains in other countries going to deal with China? They're not going to withdraw from China, but they're also not going to now nix all of these other supply chain investments in other markets, right? That's number one. And then, of course, conversely, how is China going to deal with the global economy? If it really wants to go after Taiwan, this is where geopolitics and economics get mixed, right? Then it learned some lessons from the Russian debacle in Ukraine and all these all these sanctions, and it might go and try to diversify itself away from the United States and Europe into the Shanghai Cooperation Council, and countries such as Russia, Iran, and others that are not exactly our allies. So there could be a bifurcation of the economy where China goes in the other direction, but we'll have to see how these two things come together.
Yeah, real quick, going back to the business angle, I mean, with them opening up, I mean, that has to be good for manufacturing because now you have workers on the assembly lines, right?
Well, yeah. So that all depends on how COVID is going to, now roll through the country, right? Currently, we have 37 million people contracting COVID every day, right? Think about those numbers, and if those are workers and they fall ill and can't make it back to the production lines, that would have a fairly significant impact. If not, if they manage, maybe by way of letting Western vaccines in, then of course, yeah, we might be seeing a faster recovery, and that will be good, obviously, for the trading relationships with the U.S. and Europe in theory, and certainly also for exporters of raw materials that these Chinese factories need to make the products we want.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Always good information on a Friday, Dr. Groth. Thank you very much.